He toyed with his audience like a lover. He changed everything. Music, language, fashion. But what if things aren't always what they seem? Don Big Daddy Garlix, king of the dragsters. In 2004, he was inducted into the Automotive Hall of Fame. ESPN ranked him 23rd on their top drivers of all time.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Hey, it worked.
He was on the Ed Sullivan Show, and they would only show him from the waist up. I saw the program, and we all wanted the camera to show all of him. We liked his gyrations, you know. Of course, we were the younger set, and we didn't have much to say about it at that time. Of course, it's all changed now. He actually got so famous that it was to his own demise. That's what I actually think. But I actually, at the end, felt sorry for him, if you can believe that. And people would say, well, how can you say that? He was a multi-millionaire. He didn't have a life of his own.
At a Hollywood Film Festival awards after party, we met two-time Oscar nominee Carol Connors.
And we went together for 9 months, on and off, and didn't have a baby. I was too stupid. And he was very special. He was a very sweet Southern boy. He was a very kind individual in many ways. Victoria Beckham's Dolphin Call lady calling you to do the Dolphin Call and join the Dolphin Call Club.
What do you think caused his death?
When you become that big, that much of a megastar, that iconic, it's hard for people to say, hey, Elvis, come on, don't do that. And I think people just sort of pat you on the back and tell you how great you are and don't tell you that you've got to change things in your life, you know. And he didn't. He wasn't unable to do that.
Carol Connors is also the co-writer of the Rocky theme.
Thank you.
What a wonderful life, living a life for me.
50 years after the making of the film, Follow That Dream, you can still feel the effects of Elvis. Times change, buildings get restored, but one thing hasn't changed: people's memory of Elvis. 50 years ago today, filming took place in this bank. The same day we filmed, we ran into somebody who had met Elvis when they were filming the courthouse scene for Follow That Dream.
We got outside the courthouse, I was walking down the walkway, and somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and it was a red-headed fella. He said, "Where can we get a BLT?" And I said, "Well, there's a little restaurant right down the street here on the square. Kind of a home cooking place." I said, "If you'll follow me, I'll take you down there and show you." Well, I didn't turn around and look to see if the other guys were, just this red-headed fella. And when I turned the opposite direction, the guy standing to my left was Elvis Presley. And anyway, he introduced himself to me. He said, "Hi, I'm Elvis." I said, "Hi, I'm Stan." And the other guy said, "My name is Red West. I'm Presley's buddy," you know. Well, there was a third guy, and he never introduced himself, so I don't have any idea who the third guy was. But they said, "Have you had lunch?" And I said, "No, sir, I haven't." I said, "Well, come on, lunch, you know." So we went across the street, and we sat in the booth. They had the old style booths, and we sat there, and I listened to them talk about the movie, you know, about the things that were going on. I just listened, didn't talk much. Got done and shook hands and left. So went back to St. Petersburg, went back to school, told everybody I ate lunch with Elvis Presley. They all looked at me and said, "Yeah, right."
My pop's an ornery man, Judge. That's because he's so smart. He can't stand it when people act stupid.
It's thrilling to know that this spirit is still functioning today. Our government needs it more than ever, don't you think?
And another impersonator that followed his dream was Johnny Hara. We asked people to identify who they thought this was in the photo.
Well, he looks a lot like Presley. The reason I say this, I mentioned to you earlier, Presley had pouty lips.
Well, it looks like Elvis Presley.
I'd like to introduce you to our Elvis impersonator,
Mr. Johnny Hara, please.
Hara is known as one of the first Elvis impersonators back in 1977.
Johnny, welcome. Now, how long have you been working as an Elvis impersonator?
Ever since I was 11 years old.
And how many years have you been
About
doing
35 years now, about 35 years.
Have any of the Elvis sightings that you're aware of actually been you?
On the front page of the Rocky Morning News in 1976, and the other time was here in Las Vegas when I was with one of my doctors here. With one of the doctors here.
Yeah, one of the doctors. It was Elvis's doctor, if I remember correctly, that you were seen with. Now,
Yes,
that appeared in the papers?
Yes, sir, did one of the tabloids.
All right.
I appeared in, yes, sir.
Let me ask you, do you think that there's a possibility that Elvis Presley could still be alive?
Well, very sad for the fans and sad for myself. No, sir, I don't think he's with us.
Appearing in newspapers and different articles about how similar he looks, just like Elvis. But what I really wanted to know is, what kind of man was he? I had a chance to talk to Johnny's wife, Carla Hara, on the phone.
I met Johnny in 1981, a month after my 18th birthday, at the Bronco Bow in Dallas. And when he come on that stage, he looked like a totally different man. I had to jump out of my seat and go down to the stage to see if it was the same man, because when he was dressed up, he looked just like Elvis. Johnny had a heart of gold. He'd come home and I'd have stray animals because they looked hungry. I've had him bring stray people home because they looked hungry.
And Johnny passed March 30th, 2011.
Come with me, oh my love, to the sea of love. Yes, I want to tell you, yes, honey, just how much I love you.
And at Johnny Hara's memorial in New Boston, Texas, we met Terry, who had seen Johnny before in high school.
And Johnny he performed at my high school back in the early 80s, and I've started following him since then.
At Johnny Hara's memorial, a woman by the name of Mary Benson makes scarves. She makes scarves for Elvis impersonators, and she had a chance to meet with Johnny before he passed.
Okay, I made these scarves in loving memory of Johnny Hara. I'm selling them, and the money is going towards his expenses.
How did you know Johnny?
I met Johnny at a show in Gladewater, Texas in November, and he came on the stage and he saw this scarf and he said, I've never seen anybody bring their own scarves. And I got up and took it down there. I said, Johnny, I made this for you. And he held that scarf during that whole first song that he sang. It just tickled him to death. He is just awesome. Johnny was just awesome.
Do you think there's a possibility he faked his death?
The death could have been a cover-up. It could have been. That's a possibility.
We had a chance to talk to a few of the Elvis impersonators.
He looked so much like Elvis that he reminded people of Elvis. I know that, just looking at him. It's the only ETA that I know of that actually slept in, late in Elvis's bed. So the movies and things he did about Elvis after Elvis Presley passed away. And he also, he gave away cars like Elvis did.
Johnny was filming the movie This Is Elvis. My uncle was on patrol and I happened to be in Memphis and saw Johnny from about 40, 50 feet away, and he called the house and goes, man, I can't believe it. I said, it's just like looking at Elvis. And knowing Johnny, and no, Johnny wasn't Elvis.
He looked very much like Elvis. I heard all the Elvis sightings.
Do you think there's a possibility that that Elvis faked his own death and came back as Johnny Hara? Do you think that's a possibility? Or?
No, my personal belief is not that, but it would have been a good story if it was.
Yeah.
And Johnny looked so much like him, yeah, it would have been pretty good.
much as I would like to say that Elvis is still with us, I believe he left us August 16th, 1977.
And he tells Charlie, he says, "Charlie, we gotta go, man." And Charlie gets back in the car, getting ready to go, you know. And he said, "No, man, you don't understand. She needs that car more than we do." He gave her that car. And not a lot of people know that.
Somebody like Johnny kept it going, and matter of fact, I think it was once said that Elvis went to a Johnny Harris show. I thought he was the only tribute artist that Elvis actually went to see, so that's kind of cool.
I think he passed, and you know, if he didn't, he obviously didn't want to be bothered, so it didn't matter either way.
I heard a lot of good things about him. Very good person, and he was, great. Well, back then it was Elvis impersonators, right? Today it's ETAs, but yeah, great look, great singer, and I wish that I had a chance to meet him. That Johnny was?
Yeah, maybe Elvis faked his death, and then Johnny, he came back as Johnny Harris. Is that?
Oh, you never know. All things are possible. Yeah.
And after the show was over, the impersonators went back to Texarkana to put on an after party for the people who had attended the show and to pay tribute to Johnny Harris once again.
You're a nap, right? You're a nap, right? I'm doing unforgettable. That's what you are.
And now a poem from a woman who runs JohnnyHarrowTheLegend.net and many other Elvis tribute sites.
Johnny, the hurt of losing you never seems to go away. I think about you every day. I want to call to hear your voice, then I stop and realize I have no choice. Angels came to take you home, but it leaves me feeling so alone. I've always loved you, I always will. The need to hear you is in me still. The words you spoke to me were dear. How I wish that you were here.
What if Johnny Harris really was Elvis Presley?
Oh, he sang so good, they let him do movies he couldn't act. They said, let him sing all his dialogue. They did everything Elvis said. They said, Elvis, we gotta win this race. We gotta win this race. Let him sing till it was over, too. Elvis was 42 years old.
There were two actors who had kind of were vying for the lead. One looked exactly like Elvis Presley, but could not act. And the other was somebody named Kurt Russell.
Johnny Harris played 42-year-old Elvis Presley. Known as one of the first impersonators, I wanted to do more research on Johnny Harris. This is the Kemps. They've seen Johnny Harris live. And well, befriended
We hooked up
him.
afterwards, and he came to our house. Not this house, not where we used to live. So he was hungry. So I said, well, I'll make some sandwiches or whatever. That man ate, a stack of sandwiches this big.
Beautiful. God bless you. Thank you very much.
He traveled in this big motorhome. So he asked me, he said, would you mind doing some of my laundry? And I said, no, I don't mind doing your laundry. Well, he brings in all his jumpsuits, sequins, bangles, and beads, and all this. He must have had 10 of them. And so I did all that, and then he said, do you mind doing? So I ended up doing his sheets, his throw rugs. I did everything. I had Elvis outfits hanging all over my house drying, you know. I hope they still fit him after I finish with them, because I don't know whether they shrunk or not.
Misinterpreted, misrepresented, and misunderstood.
Well, mama, she done told me, thought I told her to. Son, I got a full when she ain't no good.
Then years had gone by. And we heard, I don't know how we heard about him changing his name to Johnny Hero. We heard that he went to Las Vegas.
Due to Elvis fanatics, for safety reasons, this next person we'll name unknown.
Had a sense of humor that was unbelievable. Anytime you were around Johnny, you felt comfortable because he made you laugh. He made you feel right at home even sitting in his living room.
He appeared on many shows, including The Tonight Show and Merv Griffin.
Johnny Hara. Johnny.
What if Johnny Hara really was Elvis Presley?
So, the mystery, did Elvis fake his death? I'm one that fully believes, yes, Elvis did fake his death. Do I think I met Elvis? Yeah, I do think I met Elvis.
So what if Elvis faked his death? He'd need money, right? 3 facts. The first fact, his will of probate was made out on March 3rd, 1977. Fact 2, his life insurance policies.
My sources tell me that in March of 1977, a full 3 months before Elvis died, he cashed in 3 life insurance policies for just shy of $2 million.
Fact 3, he opened a checking account.
A checking account with $1 million.
There was a checking account, a private checking account, with an excess of $1 million.
April 1978 to 1981, Johnny signed a $6 million contract with the Silverbird Casino in 1978. For the show, Profiles of Elvis, the contract was broke and he was only paid $3 million, and he only performed for 1.5 years. When it all started, August 16th, 1977, Fort Worth, Dallas Airport.
Silence, the final curtain, my friend, I stayed.
August 29th, 1977, Johnny performed at the Cotton Bowl Stadium to over 30,000 fans. Johnny appeared on the Billy Stanley radio show. Here's an excerpt from one of his interviews.
Oh, you know who you are, Johnny. Go ahead.
Yes, I do. I can't help it that I do sound a little bit like Elvis, and I don't know. I'm just me.
Now, Johnny, you were around obviously when Elvis was around.
Oh yes, I was.
Because I remember talking about you, and that's the first time I ever heard about an Elvis impersonator, and obviously that Elvis impersonator was Johnny Harris.
Here's the king, ladies and gentlemen, of rock and roll. No man, nobody is going to take his place. The only thing I want to do is just bring back memories and keep his legend alive, which will never die as far as I'm concerned. Right?
We wanted to learn more about Johnny, so we took a trip to Florida, deep in the woods, to see his manager, Charlie.
Well, if you ask Johnny, Johnny would tell you, and he'd tell you quick. If they don't want to do it and do it for the right reasons, don't do it at all. I think Elvis did his shows not for the glory, not for the fame, but he did it to see those people happy. And, you know, everybody says this is not only just him in the bedroom. He's got Elvis's pajamas on, the whole 9 yards. I mean, he actually stayed upstairs in Graceland for the filming. They said that he said the only thing that he couldn't do was turn the 2 overhead TVs on and watch them. They wouldn't let him do that. But he actually slept there in Elvis's bed during the filming of the movie.
In the research we've done, we found it's all about the money. What's your take?
And that's what's wrong with the whole Elvis world today. Who does something in Elvis's memory, for his memory, free for the fans? It's not done that way. It's done so everybody can make money in their pocket. And then that's bull. It's wrong.
So tell me a little bit about the room that we're in.
This is his room here at my house, and he says, when I come down, and then I'll have my chair and you have your chair to sit in. So he gave them to me, and I've got them in here. And of course, this was something he gave to my kids. He called my kids grandkids, and he gave this to them. And I mean, he was a very giving person and lovable person.
We learned in New Boston that Johnny had a giving side. Do you have any more stories about that?
Why don't you just drop me off here? I'll catch a cab.
Too late now.
Some of them he had redone and gave them away as gifts. The others, other people said, "Oh man, I'd really love to have that, and I'd redo it," and he'd give it to them as gifts. All of them, you know. And that's the type of person Johnny was. It wasn't just cars, it was money, it was jewelry, it was clothes, it was anything somebody needed. If he had it or he knew he could get it, they had it. The things that people are doing for good, you don't hear anything about that.
Let me have a Diablo sandwich, a Dr. Pepper, make it fast. I'm in a goddamn hurry. You want something?
Man, anybody that walked by him, he talked to everybody. He didn't know a stranger.
I wanted to show Charlie the letter that I had come in contact with and see if he could verify it.
He had arthritis really bad, so his handwriting wasn't all that great, but yeah, it looks like his. You mind if I read it for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you get this?
From a reliable source.
Johnny didn't write this, man. It's signed right there, Elvis Presley. This ain't, Johnny didn't write this. No, I'll put this mystery to bed right now. No. You mind if I keep this?
We had heard that Elvis had been reported sighted there.
It's been reported that Johnny was the man in the pool house photo, but no one will fess up to it.
Sitting behind the screen door.
Okay? That's the first I've heard that.
So about 3 days later, I did this film that she was talking about, saying what had happened with the picture. I never said it was Elvis Presley.
Yes,
I just said the picture was taken there.
The similarities between Johnny and Elvis were almost identical.
But, you know, I've got a scar on the palm of my right hand, and I've got a crooked finger in my Elvis Presley.
It seems like everybody in the world thinks that Johnny Herro was Elvis. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, Johnny Herro was the closest thing that will ever be to Elvis Presley, but he was not Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley died in '77. You know, people do all sorts of crazy things.
How do you explain the 7-Eleven?
Johnny was born 7/11 of 1946. Johnny wasn't Elvis. Johnny was Johnny, man, and that's all he ever wanted to be.
So, maybe the idea that Johnny Herro was Elvis just isn't plausible.
There seems to be enough evidence indicating he could be. Elvis's handwriting appears to be on his own death certificate. There are questions regarding Elvis's body from not only fans, but his own cousin as well. So, whose body was in Elvis's coffin? The autopsy reports and official investigations into Elvis's death seem to pose more questions than answers.
Elvis's father, Vernon, reportedly commissioned a private autopsy after the official report was completed. Exactly what those doctors found is still unknown. At Vernon's request, the results will remain sealed until the year 2027.
Many have questioned the way the autopsy was
Usually these autopsy reports are 40 or 50 pages long, and they're very in-depth.
Why did the Memphis police officially close the files on the death of Elvis Presley before it was even medically or scientifically possible to determine why and how he died?
And then there's Bill Beeney, who claims he has DNA
DNA evidence
finally prove that he's alive.
Where's the evidence that he is still alive?
There's a lot of evidence that he was alive. Elvis's living aunt asked me to, only living aunt of the aunts and uncles, asked me to visit her. I did. We had a 3-hour conversation. She said it was not my nephew in the casket. She further related that Elvis Presley was alive.
So tonight, the long-awaited DNA test results are in.
Elvis's DNA from the biopsy did not match the tissue sample from his autopsy. Beanie and the doctor arrived at a startling conclusion.
I can't argue with science. Elvis was not in the casket.
In recent years, Bill closed the Elvis Museum and opened a food pantry.
And I got convicted that we needed to be doing something more for the poor than what the museum was doing. It had a different purpose. So we sold the museum to a group that moved it down south, and we opened up a food pantry for people who had fallen upon hard times. We have now have over 625 families that have signed up and at one time or another have received food here at the pantry. We're open 7 days a week.
And what about the letter? We sent this letter to 2 different handwriting experts who both were convinced that it matches known samples of Elvis Presley in both print and cursive handwriting.
If you're reading this, I have faced my final curtain. My name is Elvis Presley, and I know some of you will never believe this, but that's okay. This letter was the hardest letter I have ever wrote. This all started in 1946. We were all very poor. My mother gave birth to a little boy. My family didn't have enough money to raise another child. My mother wanted so bad to keep him, but my daddy said we couldn't. Aunt Lois could verify it because she was there. This really hurt my mama, and she felt lost, already losing Jesse at birth and having to give my brother up. And I think that's what led to her death. I always wanted to find him and see him, but when I became famous, it didn't happen. It wasn't good for my image. I never forgot about my brother, and I always did something to remember him in my movies, like Viva Las Vegas. Look at the numbers on the car, 7-Eleven, and 7-Eleven. The numbers were with me always in whatever I did. When Priscilla and I split in '73, I was upset for my daughter. We stayed friends, and I started falling apart. I told the colonel that I wanted to see my brother. After telling me how if this gets out, I will be done, which I didn't care. But he said it would make my mama look bad. I didn't want that. My mama was a good woman who died of a broken heart. In February of '74, the colonel made it happen. He put me in contact with my brother, who never knew the story. When I met him, wow, man, it was unbelievable. It was like looking at me 11 years before. He had a little wider nose, but looked just like me. We became very close. He even did a few concerts as me, and no one ever knew. In December of '75, my brother became very sick. The doctor gave him around a year to live. This broke my heart. Everyone thought I had everything, but I was losing it all. I couldn't take it no more. I had no life. I felt God was taking things from me. I was losing what mattered to me most. My family, my mama, and now my brother. It was just too much. Me and the colonel talked about it. He knew he could make more money off of me dead than alive, and he did. I planned the best funeral that money could buy. On August 15th, 1977, I lost my brother, and that was the day the world lost Elvis Presley. I wasn't going to lose anything else in life. My brother worked 2 years as an impersonator until his death. I just stepped in and took his place. Lived as him for the rest of my life. There were good times and bad, but I lived a life much happier than before. I missed parts of the lifestyle, but at last I had peace and happiness, something I lost in the '60s. I know most will shuck this off and saying that's BS. I wouldn't have done this to my fans, but truth to the matter is, I don't owe any one of you an apology. My life was taken from me. I couldn't even be me. Threats were coming in on me and my family. Nobody loved me for me. Only the Elvis you saw on stage. Yes, I have a good heart, always giving. That was because I was so sad inside. People for years did all they could to keep this a secret, but now it's out there. Sad what money will do. In August of '77, I left for Texas to do a show, one of the biggest shows I have ever done. I was very scared when everyone saw me. I was scared it was over before it began. I then moved to Tampa, Florida, and started my new life, coming back to Texas later on. I was always doing shows, but who would ever believe they were seeing Elvis on stage? They would say he looks and sounds like him, but he was out there before Elvis passed, the perfect cover. I heard that I'm on drugs thing. I didn't take those drugs. Those were in my name, but they were party drugs for my so-called friends. Charlie Hodge was my only true friend, ever as Elvis. Jerry, Milky, Larry were good guys. Everyone else just used me. Same thing was going on in my new life. Everyone wanted something from me. If they didn't get it, watch out. But I did have one true friend. I won't say his name because him and his family have been through enough. Son, you know who you are. Thank you for everything. I love you. My 2 daughters, my son, my wife. I know it's been very hard for you over the years to be with me, knowing my lifestyle, but know this, you made me happy, and I love you, and never stopped. I know we had some bad times, but a lot of good. If anything bad starts to happening, you know who you can contact to stop it. I wish you'd been in my life then. Maybe things would have happened different than they did. We live in a sad world today. People have forgot what life is about. It's a shame because life is so much more than what we have or get. Life is who we have in our life and happiness. To you who think this letter is bull, that's fine. I just wanted the story out there. Until we meet again, adios, Elvis Presley.
After all our hard work, research, interviews, news reports, investigations, and traveling from one side of the earth to the other, we've come to the conclusion Elvis Presley will live forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has left the building. Thank you and good night.
We're caught in a trap. I can't walk out